Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video. I got this idea after I finished my redraw of the portrait you're seeing now. This was one of those ideas that had to simmer on the back burner for a while because I needed to really understand the depth of my own process in order to talk about quick improvement strategies I've implemented into my workflow, and I wanted to provide as many tips as I could to show how I was able to get to this point in my art journey, and maybe some of these tips can help you along your art journey. I also wanted to address the date of the drawing in the video. This first version of the portrait was created on May 9th of 2020, while the redrawn version, aka the one in the video, was completed on June 24th of 2020. So my improvement overall took about 2 months or less, and anyone watching this can definitely improve in a short amount of time if you wanted to. What I discovered recently that has helped me improve my work significantly was to start planning out my work before finalizing the design. This would mean I'd take some time to sketch out a thumbnail sketch or a couple of thumbnail sketches of the subject or subjects into my sketchbook or onto some printer paper if I happen to not have a sketchbook on hand. You can draw as many or as little thumbnail sketches as you want to when it comes to personalized pieces. You can also go further by planning your color palette with a color wheel if you have one, Googling an already established color palette, or borrowing a palette from one of your favorite art pieces. Here's how to do that. Of course, you can also do the exact same technique in Photoshop, but the settings are compromised differently. So if you want to learn how to do this in Photoshop, I'll leave a link in the description down below. Now, I know many people at this point are probably going to argue that you shouldn't or you don't have to plan any of your pieces and that you should just draw whenever inspiration hits you, and I totally agree with this point. I think it's totally important to allow inspiration and one's imagination to strike so an artist can draw out their creativity from that inspiration. However, if an artist happens to be stuck in art block mode, this method could also give you the opportunity to help you fix and readjust small anatomical mistakes and composition errors before making the piece official through digital or traditional means. Also, personally using this method has made me feel a bit more confident with how I go about my work, so I don't just sit at my desk for several hours at a time waiting for inspiration to hit me harder than a school bus. Now for this tidbit, I'm basically putting my own foot in my mouth because, oh boy, I'm still dealing with this problem to this day. Following through, dare I say, is probably one of the most important things you could do, not only as an artist, but as a person overall. If one day you want to take your art, comics, animations, sculptures, or whatever medium you like to do to the next level, then you and I are going to have to push ourselves to complete the task and what we set our minds to on a daily basis, because that's how we get things done, right? I'll give you an IRL example. One day in the near future, I want to own and run my own studio that produces animations and comics, which will be coming soon, by the way. And the harsh gospel truth that I had to get through my head was that in order for me to actually achieve any short-term or long-term goals that I have set for myself is that I had to force myself to do the thing. Yep, I said it. Stay mad, cancel me, give a sister her hashtag, I don't care. Obviously, this piece of advice is way easier said than done, but during my art journey, I've noticed these few things that have held me back from following through on things. On all things, really. Sometimes I would create a sketch or create a blank document on Clip Studio Paint and then stop working on those pieces completely in order to work on other art pieces. So I'd end up finding myself in this perpetual state of having an unfinished backlog of work while trying to play catch up with other pieces and commissions. Sound familiar? To try to combat this, I decided to take count of every single unfinished art piece I have created so far and work on one of those pieces in between completing larger scale personal projects or professional commissions. There's a lot of balance involved in doing these tasks, but the challenge is worth seeing the progression in your work by doing more than just one thing, while also allowing you to progress on certain areas that you have issues with. Giving yourself a deadline for when you should complete the smaller goals and the bigger goals of your projects, I've personally noticed has helped me boost productivity, helps fill your portfolio much faster depending on the projects, and also encourages you to follow through. Everyone is different, so everyone's schedules will vary depending on what art field you intend on working in. If you choose to become a freelancer or business owner, setting deadlines that are both challenging and comfortable to you will help you, and I, of course, tighten up our workflow. So just do the best that you can to buckle down. Okay, so studying and practicing helps you retain information and even muscle memory for future pieces. Shocker, right? Like, practice is basically one of the many things that you need to do in order for you to improve. And I'd recommend utilizing every opportunity or days of boredom to study something that you're uncomfortable drawing, whether it be a dynamic pose, a complex background, or even studying from different artists, which are master studies. Doing this almost every day for 30 minutes or more will give you a challenge, and even if you hate the results of the studies, in the back of your mind, you'll at least know that you've tried something different. You can also take this time to analyze what you can change in future studies, which, depending on who you are as a person, could allow you to break a fear barrier when it comes to trying new things. Studying things that I usually don't like to draw has personally helped me with defeating art block, considering that learning new things started giving me new ideas. So if you try utilizing the 30 minutes every day or every other day rule while challenging yourself at the same time, you'll gradually gain enough art wisdom to bring about newer concepts in your artwork. Okay, so this doesn't just pertain to finding an art style, this also applies to understanding art technicalities. When you find your own art style, I'm doing air quotes because artists evolve and change as they learn new things and apply them, but when you find an art style you're comfortable with, try switching it up and study a medium that you don't know or don't like. You can also try combining different mediums to make your piece look more interesting. For understanding art technicalities, what you, me, and every other artist should do is study and utilize the basic fundamentals of art as much as we can during our art process or while we're planning our piece, because in order for anyone to be able to break the rules in art, you have to understand them. If you happen to be a traditional artist, you can use various objects around your house as long as you don't need them anymore, of course, like old sponges, old clothes, old paintbrushes, old and torn up shoes. You can even use anything to add or to improve upon that piece you're currently working on, or a piece that you plan to create in the future. This also applies to digital artists as well, but we obviously can't use textures from our house to create digital pieces. Just experiment with brushes, experiment with as much as you can, Now, this may sound like a contradiction to an earlier point I made when I was speaking about following through and learning what you know and what you don't know, because I mentioned how important it is to be consistent in your practice, in your studies, and to create at least one piece every day or every other day. However, the second most important thing that you can do for your improvement is taking breaks. You can take these breaks for however long you need to, as long as these breaks are beneficial to your workflow and don't just stem from art block. Trust me, you just don't want it like that. There are some people who take breaks for 5 to 10 minutes. I hear that Ergo Josh uses that technique in order for them to, push back and think about the piece for a little bit, just to refuel their inspiration for what they've been working on or slacking off on. Some people might need a vacation away from their work in order for them to have some form of normalcy and spend time with family and loved ones in order to gain more inspiration. It's also good to take a step back from posting anything on social media, whether it's art, comments, responding to DMs, responding to comments, and collaborating with other artists. It just allows you to just give yourself some private time, because sometimes social media can be very draining. Trying this can save you a lot of time from feeling like garbage. For example, a piece of work that you've worked very hard on didn't get the attention it deserved, or at least you think it deserved a lot of attention, right? The critiques you're receiving are too harsh towards you, or maybe your following has stagnated no matter how active you are on that platform. If this is happening to you, then take a step back for a few days or a few weeks and try to rejuvenate yourself during your break by focusing on other things that truly need your attention. Trust me, it'll do you some good. And for those that don't know, you can also utilize the 30-70 rule, which is a concept that was pretty much developed by this artist. I'll go ahead and post their video down below, and it's really, really helpful advice. Honestly, like, I have no idea where I'd be if I did not use the 70-30 rule. All right, next, moving on. All right, this is also something that I'm still practicing, and it can be a struggle sometimes, because when we make something that could have taken us hours or days to finish, I would feel like that the piece has been torn apart, because I still have this difficulty to deal with various types of criticism properly. This may not be something you relate to, or maybe it is. However, the best way to practice taking criticism when you're not in the mood or extremely sensitive to criticism is to discern the difference between good criticism or bad criticism. And what I mean by good criticism, I mean it's helpful to you. It helps you improve. You know, it doesn't just put you down. But good criticism comes in a couple of different ways. For example, there's the correction/suggestion and the compliment. The viewer or viewers may say something like this: "Oh wow, I really like the piece's composition and you did a really good job. However, I would fix blank." Or you get the reverse, like, "Okay, I think that there could have been a bit more details added to the hair or the skin or whatever, but you did a really good job on the piece overall." See what I mean? And then there's the compliment sandwich. And honestly, who doesn't like a good sandwich? Anyways, the compliment sandwich is basically a compliment, correction, suggestion, and the second compliment, all stacked together in one big old delicious sandwich. Pretty self-explanatory, right? These examples of good criticism will more than likely help you out in the long run, and it'll allow you to not only see some of the flaws in your own work, but it'll also make you comfortable with fixing those flaws. Okay, so now bad criticism is what it is, and it basically means you're either dealing with someone who isn't as enthusiastic about your art as you are, or they have the tendency to troll in order for you to feel even worse about your art, or they say, "Oh, well, your art is crap," without any form of explanation as to why it looks like crap, or they say, "Oh, it's good," without giving any explanation as to why the piece is good, or in even a worse scenario, they're incredibly jealous of your progress and want to emotionally crush you with their words so you never pick up a pencil or a drawing tablet again. For example, I had an art friend several years ago who I would show my art to a lot, and she would show me hers, and when she'd show me her work, I'd either compliment it or I'd do the compliment sandwich style of critique because she was still learning and I didn't want to be too rude. But when she would critique me, she would be really harsh or really sarcastic, or she would try to tear apart my work when it's not completely finished, or she would be annoyingly vague with what I needed to improve on. It was really annoying and unnecessary, and she'd be all like, "It looks stiff. Like, what does that even mean? Gosh." Anyways, point is that not all criticism is worth hearing out, to be wary of who you take criticism from, and to ignore criticism if it doesn't actually help you improve. And lastly, you don't have to respond to every single thing just because someone hurts your feelings. I know that most of us want to punch people in the face with our words, but honestly, just cry about it offline and pick yourself back up, because privacy when dealing with your emotions is also necessary. Trust me, you won't regret it, nor will you get trolled. In my experience so far, I've made a lot of business mistakes, artistic mistakes, even mistakes when talking to people and trying to make friends or network. And if you're a new artist or an experienced artist, you're also gonna make a lot of mistakes. This is why it's super important to practice remaining unbothered when it comes to those things. Of course, you're gonna have to take a lot of accountability for your actions. You're gonna have to change for the better. But for the little things, you can just wipe that dirt off your shoulder, you know, take the L, all that jazz for self-improvement, you know. And I get it, it's much easier said than done depending on what you're experiencing right now and what you've experienced in your past. But that's why being unbothered isn't an overnight change. You and I don't just wake up the next day and go, "I has moved on and I is better now." That's not how humans work, period. This is exactly why practicing being unbothered is such an important thing, because being unbothered in itself is an art. And the one thing that reminds me to be unbothered about certain is the saying goes, it's a marathon, not a race. And that the turtle was the one that beat the hare. So give yourself some time, but obviously not too much time, to grow and get good before expecting things to just come to you easily. I'm not just saying this for you, person who is watching this, but I'm also saying this to remind myself that we can't rush things, and things will come into fruition when the Most High knows you're ready to handle it, because success doesn't happen overnight. So, chill. Just chill, And that's the several steps on how I approved my work within 2 months or less. It's easier said than done, just like most of the tutorials I'm sure you've seen throughout your time on YouTube. However, if you take the time to implement these habits into your art schedule and into life in general, I can almost guarantee that you'll see some pretty quick results regarding changes in your art style or your speed. If these tips work for you, let me know in the comment section, and if you also want to share any tips to other artists passing by, then please share them as well. Just talk to each other. You feel me? Also, if anyone has any questions regarding the tips in this video, go ahead and message me through my Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, email, I don't know, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out. And lastly, if you like this video and you learned something from this, please share this video with your friends and other artist friends, and subscribe to my channel for more art related content, which will be coming soon. Hope you all had a wonderful day, afternoon, or evening, and shalom.